Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Brian and Mr. Betcher for Breaking Down Security.
What's up, people?
So we have in another series of awesome interviews. We have Josh Sokol with us today. For those of you who don't know Josh Sokol, he is the Information Security Program owner. That's it. Over at National Instruments headquarters in Austin, Texas. So.
Yep.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for inviting me, guys.
I appreciate that. So, like we do with most of our interviews, everybody has an origin story. Us information superheroes here. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you ended up getting started in information security and policies and compliance and stuff.
Absolutely. So early on, I was always interested in computers. My dad was one of the first lawyers in the state of Minnesota to actually be on the internet. And so I've had access for a very long time to the web. Curiosity got me at an early age. And so I started playing around with BBS systems and things like that. There was a time early on where I was going to computer science at University of Texas at Austin. Even though I was doing a lot of programming and things like that, still very interested in security, but at the time none of the universities really had any focus on security. So coming out of there, I decided that I wanted to do system administration, and I spent the early part of my career doing Linux and Unix system administration. Eventually made my way over at National Instruments. I was on the web systems team here for 3 years. And I started doing security in kind of my spare time, about 5% or so of my spare time, just running network scans, fixing vulnerabilities, things like that. And eventually I got good enough at it that they said, hey, we could probably figure out a way to make this a full-time thing. And right about that time, our compliance guy left us, and they basically came to me and said, if you're willing to take on the SOX compliance and the PCI compliance as part of your responsibility, we can let you go full-time information security. And so at this point, I've been here 7.5 years. I run the security program. I've got a team of we'll say 2.5 right now, because I have an intern, and the team is constantly growing. We've got a lot of stuff on our plate, and we're looking at possibly expanding into a couple of people in Costa Rica next year.
Wow. Okay. So what kind of regulatory and compliance and security issues do you run into at a company like National Instruments? I mean, what does National Instruments do? From that kind of point of view there.
Yeah, so National Instruments as a company is measurement, test, and automation.
Oh.
So when you think about robotics and stuff like that,
Sure.
NI should be at the forefront of your mind. They do all sorts of cool stuff around like manufacturing automation. For example, if you go to a car manufacturer and you see those big robots welding doors onto cars and stuff like that, chances are pretty good that it's our products that they're using in order to do that. And NI products are used across the board in aerospace and healthcare, and I mean you name it, there's NI somewhere. Shiner breweries actually use our products for making beer. So it literally is all over the place. My focus at NI is information security from an enterprise standpoint. So we have other people who kind of focus on the product side security, but where the company is involved in protecting our corporate assets, that's where me and my team kind of focus in on.
So you're not protecting the robotics per se, you're protecting the people.
Yeah, the people, the data, the IP, that's kind of where we come in. And along with that, you mentioned compliance and things like that. So PCI, we take credit cards for customer payments, and so that's something that we've had to deal with. We're a publicly traded company, so Sarbanes-Oxley is something that we have to deal with. And myself and Walter on my team, we spend a lot of time working on doing testing for SOX and things like that.
So your position is the owner of the information security program, but is that different than a manager position, or is it the same thing?
It kind of is a little bit different. Within National Instruments, the term manager actually has a connotation about actually being a manager. And so when you look at it from the perspective of, do I run the security program? The answer is unequivocally yes. Am I responsible for compliance, for risk management, for vulnerability management, all those kind of things? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, up until 6 months, a year ago, when Walter came onto my team, I wasn't managing any people, and therefore I wasn't a manager. So I adopted the term information security program owner to reflect the fact that it's my security program. I am the security SME at NI, and even once they make me a manager for actually having people on my team, honestly, I'll keep the owner title. I like it better.
Yeah, you probably don't want to get into all the HR.
Really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you call yourself or what somebody else calls you. The thing is, are you capable of doing the job? Do you run the security program? Yes, I run the security program for National Instruments.
So the reason we brought you on was to talk about a topic, and we talked to Phil Beyer a couple of weeks ago on he had 5 essentials for a successful security program, and one of the essentials was a risk management program. So why don't you talk about how you started in this risk management realm and how you got, pretty much you're known for a free program that you built.
Yeah. So first off, Phil's a smart guy. Everybody should absolutely listen to him. And if he's saying that you should do risk management, then absolutely you should do risk management, right? When I first started the information security program at National Instruments, one of the things that I was tasked with is building an information security program that looked at risks in our environment and then helping to use those risks in order to prioritize our security-related activities going forward. And initially what I started to do in this program is I started to track risks via Word documents and Excel spreadsheets. And the unfortunate fact is that most of the community out there is actually using Word docs and Excel spreadsheets in order to track risk. And if you go to simplerisk.org, you'll actually see there's a poll at the bottom of the page, and the vast majority either have nothing or Excel spreadsheets and Word docs. So, I started in the same place that everybody else did. Quickly realized that those didn't work for me. They weren't flexible enough. It was hard to track. It was hard to run reports. And I started doing some inquiries around NI, and I found out that there was a security professional who was here about 7 years before me, and he had put together a Lotus Notes database to track risk management.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So I took a look at this, and I was like, okay, this is usable. It is for sure better than Word docs and Excel spreadsheets. And so I started going through this program, and I asked a notes administrator to tweak a few values in there, make it a little bit more usable, make it better for our organization. And I started using this thing, and I got 100 plus risks into this environment, and all of a sudden I decided, well, I don't like the way that it's doing the risk calculation. It was based off of likelihood and impact, but what I found is that at NI, we valued impact more than we valued likelihood. And so I wanted to do what's called a weighted impact. I wanted to basically add impact as an additional modifier to it. And so I went to a notes admin because I don't have the skill to be able to modify that database. I went to the notes admin. I said, hey, can you do this? And she said, absolutely. And a couple weeks later, I had my modified database in terms of the calculation, but then I had to go in and individually edit every single risk in my database, over 100 risks, and then resave them in order to get that calculation to update.
Oh, wow.
And it was at that point in time where I kind of said there's got to be a better way. And I did a lot of research into what they call GRC tools, governance, risk, and compliance. And there's quite a few companies out there that do GRC, and I'm not going to diss them. They're fantastic tools. They're just, I guess the way I say it is they're bloated, right? They do a lot of things, and for most people who are interested in doing risk management, you don't need all that cruft. You don't need everything that's part of those. And when I started looking at, I was quoted about $500,000 for a GRC tool for our company. And I brought that number to my management. I said it's going to be $500,000 for us to purchase a GRC tool. And this was year number 1 of me running the security program at NI, and I literally got laughed at. It was hard. It was hard to take, but you step into a brand new security program, with zero budget from the get-go, and all of a sudden you're asking for the cumulative budget of like every other IT team, in the company, and you're bound to get laughed at.
For one thing. Yeah, for one thing.
Yeah, for one thing. And the funny thing is not only for one thing, but really for one person, right? I'm the person doing the risk management. So at that point, I get this idea that I should go and, I'm not the only one interested in risk at National Instruments, right? There's the health and safety guys who are concerned about OSHA, and there's the trade compliance guys who are concerned about ITAR and things like that. So I drag all these guys into a room, and I have the vendor give the GRC pitch to them, tell them about how awesome this tool is, and they go away with smiles on their face. I bring them back into a room about a week later, and I say, all right, what'd you guys think? They said, all right, that GRC tool is badass. Let's do that. And I said, okay, it's going to be, $100,000 from you, and $100,000 from you, and $100,000 for you. And they look at me like I'm crazy. We can't spend $100,000 on this tool. Even if it's $100,000 spread across 5 different teams, it doesn't matter. The value proposition isn't there, right? Nobody wants to pay $500,000 for that kind of a tool. And, it was out of those frustrations where I finally said, if this is a problem that I have as a security professional, I value risk management. It's something that I think that everybody should be doing. And, obviously it found its way into Phil's talk as well. I said, I got to fix this. And so nights and weekends, my wife hated me for a while because I have 4 kids and I was sitting down coding in PHP. But I sat down writing in a language that I'm very familiar with, working with MySQL as the database, which is a database query language that I'm very familiar with. Both of them free, both of them open source, easy to get installed. And over the course of about a month and a half, 2 months, I had the basic outline for what's now Simple Risk. I gave it another month or so, kind of tweaking things and whatnot. And in March of last year, March 2013, I debuted Simple Risk at the B-Sides Austin conference. And, a packed room, talking to them about risk management, what it meant to do risk management. And then I debuted Simple Risk. I showed them the tool, I showed them how it worked. And it was amazing to see people's reactions, because it was like, why hasn't anybody done this before? Everybody sees the value in doing risk management. I haven't had a hard time at all in convincing people that it's something that's worthwhile doing. The problem has always been the tool set. It's been not a matter of should we do it, it's how do we do it. And it seems to me like that's the major stumbling block. That's where people fall over when they're trying to build a risk management program. And in a couple months of development time, I feel like I took a pretty good shot at that problem. Since that point in time, it's that was March 2013. I've put out probably over a dozen different releases of Simple Risk. I am constantly updating it, constantly adding new reports. It went from the original classic risk rating methodology, likelihood and impact, with some weighted modifiers, to now supporting the OWASP risk rating methodology, CVSS, DREAD, and then custom risk rating as well. And so extremely flexible, allows you to kind of define your own program. You get to define what low, medium, and high level risks are. All the challenges that I was facing with those Word docs, the Excel spreadsheets, all those other systems, I use Simple Risk as a way to build upon that and make something that was actually useful to me. And so today, at NI, we use Simple Risk to manage our risks.
Awesome.
And it was well received by other organizations within the company as well?
So within NI, it's mostly an IT tool. Mm-hmm. Simple Risk, we have an extra that allows you to do team-based separation, and so you could use it for as many teams as you really wanted, with a high-level admin kind of controlling the system, and then individual teams using it. My role is primarily around the IT systems, the enterprise technologies there, and so we're using Simple Risk primarily around IT infrastructure teams, so risks involved with IT infrastructure, but there's no reason it couldn't be used for others as well. Or you could stand up a second Simple Risk instance to host another group. The nice thing about it is it's free. There's no licensing cost for Simple Risk at all. You just have to be able to set up PHP and MySQL, extract a tarball onto a file and connect it to your MySQL database. I know, Brian, you had said that you set up SimForest in, 10 minutes, something like that?
Yeah, I got it installed in about 10 minutes, played around with it for another 20 minutes, and I felt like I knew my way around pretty easy.
Yeah.
So it is simple,
Yeah.
as the name says.
Well, you might have made it too simple if Betcher can do that in 10 minutes.
It's interesting. I did a half-day risk management training in San Antonio yesterday, and the first one that I had done in Austin, I didn't have the class list in advance, which meant that we had to kind of stall in the class in order to deploy the SimForest hosted instances. For the class yesterday, I had the list in advance, so I was able to get all those preset up. And one of the first things we did in the class is I said, okay, now here's your instance name, here's how you log in, go ahead and start submitting your risks. And while I was going and helping some other people answer some questions, all of a sudden I had this thought. I never told anybody how to submit their risks into SimForest. And so I get back up on stage and I say, all right, I just realized that I never told anybody how. I was like, is anybody having trouble? And nobody raised their hands. And it was kind of this epiphany for me that, I had created something that was actually intuitive enough that people could just look at it and figure it out. So yeah, I mean, it's, there's definitely a few small stumbling blocks that people have had. I would say that like 90% of them are people who aren't familiar with connecting PHP and MySQL and aren't familiar with configuring users in MySQL. Those are the people who have had issues in the past with connecting a SimForest. But once I tell them, hey, check your MySQL user, make sure that you're able to connect with that one, they're like, oh, yeah, that was the problem. I fixed it, updated the password, we're good now,
Cool. Yeah, my biggest problem, 6 minutes out of the 10 was I didn't start Apache. So
Yeah.
I realized that.
It's not working.
Crap.
Yeah. And I have people support at simforest.org. People send me a message, say, hey, can you help me with this? If I got time, absolutely, I'm going to email back, and usually it's within a day or so. I send them a note back saying, hey, did you try this? I get a lot of joy of seeing this tool that I put time and energy into actually being used within the community.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's next for SimForest? Do you plan on, going enterprise or something? Or you plan on incorporating this into other aspects of business, like, say, manufacturing? Because I know if you look at InfoSec as compared to other areas of business, we're severely immature when it comes to risk management. I mean, we're blown out. We're like the redheaded stepchild in the room when we're talking about risk management.
Yeah.
Right? So, do you agree with that? And what are the next phases?
Yeah, risk management has been around for a very long time.
Yep.
The problem is that nobody's adopted it. And like I said, I think
in InfoSec, right?
that's right. In InfoSec, I mean, you look at like insurance, for example, right? Actuaries have been doing risk management for a decade, right? So I think that the concept of risk management is well proven. In InfoSec, we don't do a very good job of doing it, but I think the tool set was the biggest problem there, and I'm hoping that for the majority out there who can't afford a big GRC tool, that SimForest fits that needs. Certainly better than the Excel spreadsheets and things like that. So, to answer your question, what's next for SimForest? I'm putting as much time and effort as I can into continuing to develop the tool. I've got a big list of features that have been requested, things that people would like to see in the tool. There's all sorts of reports and things like that I'd like to build in. At current, I support 2 languages, English and Brazilian Portuguese, but my next release will also support Spanish. So I've had a few people from the InfoSec community who have come to me and said, hey, my company is based out of Brazil, can you help me? And I'm like, absolutely. If you want to translate this thing, I've built in language files into the tool. Just translate this from English to your language, and we can get it in there. So my last release, I spent a lot of time converting it to the UTF-8 character set instead of the standard Latin character set, and now it should be able to, in theory, support pretty much any language out there. In addition, one of the the issues that I've come across is, well, I'm pretty good at PHP, MySQL, Apache. There's plenty of people who aren't, or there's lots of companies who don't have the support structure in place to do things like backups or monitoring for those. So I've partnered with James Wickett, who DevOps mastermind. James is crazy awesome when it comes to the Amazon cloud and scalability and things like that. And we've actually created a couple of different tiers around SimpleRisk as a hosted instance.
Yeah.
Still, it's not free because we have costs associated with that. But even with one of the hosted tiers, we're trying to make like a per risk model where maybe you get 10 risk free, maybe you get 20 risk free, and then pay per risk beyond that. So there's definitely potential there. And then on the install it yourself side, I've developed a series of extras based on requested functionality where they're paid for extras, but they're super cheap, like $500 an extra, to do things like authentication. So the authentication extra will do LDAP or AD authentication, and then it's got duo security built into it as well. I have a notification extra. They'll send emails every time risks are updated or reviews are performed. So there's a number of different things out there that I'm looking for ways that I can kind of help to justify the time that I'm spending on SimpleRisk. At this point, it's a portion of my time, but it's not an insignificant portion at all. And so, with a wife and 4 kids who also want portions of my time, I have to figure out some way to justify the time that I'm spending there.
Do you get any help from anyone? Saying, hey, I'd like to contribute.
I
build this piece.
I have gotten some offers to help. For example, the language conversion stuff.
Yep.
There's a very nice gentleman of Brazil who said, I don't have any money to pay for this. I'm using the SimpleRisk free version, but we're in Brazil. We speak Portuguese. What can you do for me? And I said, well, do you know PHP? He's like, yeah. He said, I do. And I said, well, if you'd like, you can help me in terms of, creating a multiple language support version. And so the original, the translation of that and the creation of the language files and things like that was actually due to his help in the community. And so I put on simplerisk.org, I put a little thank you out to him as well. Some other people have helped me with CSS and stuff like that. It's still overwhelmingly me working on the tool, but there's definitely been some support from the community as well.
That's cool. So, in dealing with your PHP, do you have how are you doing any kind of? Well, wait a minute. Let me start over. That was a bad thought. So you're running OWASP as well. Does that mean that you've automatically vetted your website for any kind of website vulnerabilities or anything like that?
I would be a horrible security practitioner if I wrote a tool that had security flaws in it. So yeah, I mean, it's SimpleRisk uses, in terms of passwords, it uses hash passwords with salts. In terms of input validation and performance validation on all the fields that it's possible. It does output encoding everywhere, parameterized query statements for all the SQL stuff. We've put a lot of thought into security when it comes to SimpleRisk. And then even within the tool itself, each risk maintains an audit log, so you can track all the activities that happen with that. As an administrator, you see all the activities that happen within the system. So, absolutely, security has been at the forefront of my mind from the very get-go. Absolutely. But there was one CV that's actually been issued against SimpleRisk. And I mentioned this because at the time, I had just built some brand new functionality into the tool. Somebody just decided to go and do some testing against it, and they found one cross-site scripting vulnerability against it.
The one on the web that's free?
Yeah, the free core version. So there is only one version of SimpleRisk. The only difference is there's some extras that add into it. There's only one SimpleRisk. So yeah, somebody had done some testing. They found a cross-site scripting vulnerability in it, in one of the brand new pieces of functionality that I had added, and they sent me an email. Within 4 hours of receiving that email, I had a fix that was already done, a brand new version that was out on the web, and I had sent an email to every single person that I knew had downloaded SimForest saying, hey, update to the newest version. I actually had a fix out for that well over a week before the CVE number was actually issued and it went public. So, I've taken security very seriously with SimForest, and then since that time, I've done even more validation against it. I use both stack and dynamic analysis tools for testing it on a pretty frequent basis. It's my baby, and I don't want my baby to be broken. I don't want other people to come out and tell me my baby's broken. I've done a pretty fair amount of diligence.
So on that note, I have a card here. Would you give me your written permission to pen test your?
Yeah, absolutely. Take
online. So Break thinks he can put a persistent cross-site scripting vulnerability up there.
Wait. Who said
so,
that? Who said that? Who said that?
So what is the bet here if he does versus he doesn't?
I don't know, Brian. What do you have to offer here?
I got volunteered for this. Where did this come from? Man.
Don't you have like a certification or something that says you're a web pen tester?
Yeah. So do you, buddy. And I think you probably scored better than I did on the test. So
Ooh. So what do we got? What is the challenge here?
I got no challenge. I mean, I'll putz around with it. I did put a couple of single quotes in some search boxes, but other than that,
How those
again,
you did that again after last time?
What last time?
Well, did you have written permission to put those single quotes in his?
If you guys are installing it offline, I don't care what you do. Bang against it all you want to.
Yeah. No, I went to the demo site. I was playing around and I saw it actually will take a single quote as a risk. So,
all right. So who's your lawyer? Who should I send that to? I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding.
Tinkers, Evers, and Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. All right.